Good afternoon, this is Stuart Davidson, your friendly QS. Well, this lockdown is certainly having an effect on the construction industry, that's for sure. But we're still, as a practice, we're still getting inquiries from developers around looking at new sites and new developments, which is a good thing. We've had some sites that have been involved in construction sites that did close down for a while. One major site that we're working on is going back tomorrow. They're starting that tentative easing back to work, with new guidelines and that sort of thing. But certainly I believe that the lockdown and the way that we've adapted and the way we're looking at working slightly differently is going to affect us for the long term, for the future, particularly in design, construction design, building design. Now, there are certain packages, certain trades on a building site that can work on site and keep social distancing. For example, groundworks. It's quite often that the guy on the machine and the banksman, etc., are working away from each other anyway. So I know groundworkers that we work with have been carried on working. And I spoke to a piling contractor yesterday, and he said that normally they get around 150 inquiries a month for piling, and that's reduced over the lockdown to 120. And I thought, well, that's not bad. So they're still getting inquiries in. So, as like our clients, they're sending us information around sites because we work on a global basis, really, a one-stop shop from advising on whether a deal stacks up on a project, on a piece of land, on a property, in terms of what they want to put the end use to that, and that probably involve some form of construction. And as quantity surveyors, our core expertise is developing contract or tender documents and bills of quantities and cash flow management, cost management, and those kind of things. But so they're asking us to have a look at sites, which I've looked at a few in the last few days, and some of them are starting to stack up. I know the last couple of years have been difficult. The asking price for land and property has been quite high in terms of getting to a residual value that returns a profit that aligns with the development finance requirements as well. And it's kind of turning around a little bit now. I think it will get better. Some of the people I know that are investors have been liquidating their assets, trying to liquidate as much money as they possibly can over the last month or two. Due to the, I think there's an anticipation that there'll be a further reduction in values, and they won't have the cash ready for cash purchases, and they don't want their money tied up in property just at the moment if there's going to be a reduction and they're looking to purchase new properties. But of course, with property, any property, if you're in it for the long term, you can ride the storm, and property is a long-term investment, and that's really how to make money out of properties, to hold it for a long time if you can, and albeit there's all different strategies. So I think this lockdown, some of the things that I've seen, design teams are now working more remotely. There's more use of VR and using new technology, new cameras, CGIs and walkthroughs, that you can have the design team, the architect, the engineer, the services engineer, starting to piss down, in different parts of the world, really. I mean, I know with me, I started to outsource my business 5 years ago, and we've got a model now and a quality management system whereby we can bring in expertise from anywhere in the world. We've got a base in Hyderabad. We do projects in the UK, and for the past 5 years we've been managing projects post-contract quite successfully, actually. And the only thing we've needed is eyes and ears on site, which we've done with a human being in the past. And but now we're looking at more technology, and the price of getting surveys done with a camera on a regular basis has come down hugely over the last year or two. And we're able to use that, which paves the way, of course, for something that I've been really interested in for a long time, is micro milestone payments. I think the payment cycle in construction's far too slow, always have done for a long time. And with micro milestone payments, the thing is with it, the breakdown of the project into its element parts, component parts, needs to be very, very granular, more granular than maybe than a traditional contract. But I think that's possible now with new technology, which means that you can measure the work on a weekly basis, payments can be made on a weekly basis, the investors can see the asset that is being accumulated, like earned asset value, on a weekly basis. Whereas in the old traditional methods, the investor or the vendor can pay the contractor without actually necessarily fully accumulating, knowing how much of that asset he's accumulated. He's obviously not too sure whether the contractor's paid all the supply chain at any one point in time. If the contractor goes out of business and he's paid the contractor and they haven't paid the supply chain yet, then the investor has lost the money. If the contractor's cash farming, then he could lose the money, slow the project down. If the contractor or the subcontractors are robbing Peter to pay Paul on other projects, that can slow the project down and relate to a reduction in resource. So there's all these kind of old-fashioned ways of working, which I think this lockdown has kind of brought to a head the normal problems in cash flow in construction relating to low working capital, apparently low profit margins, albeit the revealed profit margins are quite low. Contractors generally make their money up through discounts through that supply chain. Now, traditional contracting, the client loses control of the supply chain if he employs a traditional contract and employs a traditional contractor who then owns the supply chain. But I think with the cash flow crisis that we've got at the moment, the things will need to change. I think investors will want to have more involvement. They'll want an independent third party to make sure that their cash is going to the right place at the right time and cash is not leaking out. Now, it's not a negative on the contractors and subcontractors, because their expertise is building buildings, and what they're really good at is solving complex project problems on site, complex detailed design on site. That's what they're expert at doing, and coordinating the works. What they're not necessarily expert at doing, or what they can't do because they haven't got an oversight of it, is to manage the cash flow, to prepare that cash flow statement for the whole project, because the cash is moving through different hands all the way down, so they don't see the big picture. But also they're constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul. So what we kind of want is them to bring their expertise and not have to worry about bringing the cash or the cash flow from another project, not worrying about the cash leaking out the project. We need to protect our clients from the pressures on cash flow in the supply chain, as it's definitely building up. And the longer this lockdown goes on, the more difficult it will be for our supply chains. So we need to help the supply chains. We need to make sure that we're keeping the expertise on the project. And at the end of the day, cash might go away, but the expertise of people, the expertise of individual tradesmen, individual project managers, it's not going to go away. What's going to change is how we get them back to site, how we manage that payment scenario. And I think we can help them by direct payments, through doing new deals with investors and lenders, specifically using project bank accounts as well, and new systems of payment, so you can pay from the bottom upwards. So the pressure's taken off the supply chain and the contractor to hold cash, or different demands on their cash. So they could even be in an insolvent position. So that's where I think you need to re-qualify your supply chain to make sure it's still okay to move on. But what if you had a situation where you didn't feel that the solvency was the same as it was before? Can you help them? Just bring yourselves, turn up on site, do the work, and we'll pay the supply chain from the bottom upwards. That's a possibility. As long as you know, obviously the cash flow needs to be, what you need to do is to align your money out with your money in from your lender, and the whole dynamic of that is changing. It's something that we've been looking at closely. I've been looking at this to see if there's an approach, and there is, and I think there is a solution. So if you're a developer or a vendor and you're concerned about the cash flow and the solvency of your project, I'm quite happy to have a conversation. Just put a note in the link below for me to connect, and I'm happy to have a conversation completely free of charge. 15-minute conversation about what your concerns are and whether there's any solutions around that. Sites are going, our sites that we're aware of, that we've been involved in from a commercial perspective, are starting to drift back. We've got large sites starting next week, but they're going to be working. It's interesting how this is going to go, because it's a project, and like all projects have been designed assuming that guys can work closely together. They might need to be within a metre distance if they're fitting a window, or if they're plumbing, or they're electrician, one's holding one bit and the other's drilling a hole or something, So all design buildings have been designed not really taking into account the social distancing. But future buildings and buildings that have been designed at the moment, I know architects that are working on this at the moment, can we build buildings now that means that we don't need to be within 2 metres? We can build them so and maintain social distancing. And we've got clients at the moment, developers that are really itching to get their contracts underway. We've looked at, there's projects that are looking at that stack up return on investment, but they're concerned about, what about the construction costs now that, it's going to be awkward with 2 metre distancing. So what we're saying is, look, work with the architect. There's certain trades that are easy to fit in with social distancing, and also the logistics of the site as well. Of course, you need to make sure that the whole cycle of the construction is compliant, canteens and welfare facilities and movement around the site. But what we're saying is work with the architect. The trades that are generally okay, I would say groundworks, and as I said earlier, piling is our piling contractor we work with, or a piling contract we work with as quantity surveyors. They're still getting loads and loads of inquiries, and they're still working. And another ground worker phoned me yesterday. He said, yep, they're still working because they can keep the distance. It's quite easy with groundworks to do that. But other trades like installation of windows, possibly bricklaying, possibly cladding, possibly internal fit out, fitting trunking and cable trays, with the systems of working that were traditional. Sometimes that's difficult to do. So I said, work with your architect to see how we can design a building that you can maintain that social distancing. So we've got projects on the starting blocks now that clients really want to go forward with, that really want to build and take that into account. So I think we're adapting, I think the longer we're in lockdown, the more the construction industry is going to adapt to how we need to work. And, it might be a little bit slow at first, but we're going to speed up, and we'll speed up construction. And I think if you're a contractor or a specialist subcontractor, start to look at how you install your building, start to work with clients, start to put yourself out there. On social media, if you're a specialist contractor, or there's a specialist part of the building, if you do external cladding, start to put out there how you might work and keep social distancing. Great marketing for you, great relationship, and it pre-qualifies you for your next project. So if you're out there and you're saying, okay, we're bricklayers, and this is how we plan to work on site, maintaining social distancing, and we can do it by doing this and this and this and this, you're going to be ahead of the game. So I think keep positive. There's loads and loads of opportunities out there at the moment. So rather than sitting back saying, I don't know when the sites are going to open and this is going to happen and that's going to happen, start thinking about how you can help your clients, how you can maintain the social distance. If you're an architect, of course, you'll be looking to see how you can design a building so that the guys on the installation don't need to be within 2 meters distance. And modular as well. That's another one. In your factories, can you use machinery? Can you use hoists? Can you use grab access aids and all of these sorts of things to mean you can build a building and not have to have people within 2 meters distance of each other. So it's all possible, and I think it's changing, and I think we will step up to the plate as an industry. I'm very keen on helping the industry get out of the problem with the cash flow issue. So I've got some really good ideas on that as well. So yeah, I think if you're a developer, think about those things around how you design your building, how you deal with the logistics. Think about that. And if you want to give me a call, I'm available. Just connect with me on here on Facebook, and I'll give you a call. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, to talk about these things, completely free. And I'm just keen to. I think it's a golden moment of opportunity for the industry, really, to change. And I'm very keen on, within our own business, to adopt new systems and new strategies. And we've done that. We've now got a system, a QMS system, where we can. We've been working remotely for 5 years now, but we've worked remotely from one place in India, Hyderabad. That's been the core of where the office has been, and we've done loads of projects from there quite successfully. But now we're looking at a system whereby we can identify even more expertise from around the world, to link in with us, to link into our quality management system so they can hit the ground running, and so that we can maintain that service to our clients, and give them the expertise they need for their project, particularly now with the changes. And we're able now to use technology and new types of camera and organise surveys that we can now pull the client's design team together, and they don't even have to be in the same country, and they can see the building as if they're actually there. And in fact, you can actually see more of the building than if you was actually on site walking around. Now there's a thing, and as I say, this is just the next step forward in technology for us. I mean, we've been doing it for a while, and I would say if you're a developer, if you're thinking of a development, even before you appoint your design team, think of talking to somebody like us who can really give you that first heads up of the commercial side of the project, how you might employ your design team, what's your logistics for saving money. And we've saved thousands of pounds a day by beaming 3D vision pictures of a project to the design team, and so they don't all have to visit site. And you can actually, it's sometimes, in a way, it's better, you see more there than you sometimes do walking around the site, which is an amazing thing. So we're adapting fast, so I think it's a time of opportunity for construction to step up to the plate, change its culture, become slicker, start to punch above its weight in terms of wealth creation, which has been pretty poor, to be honest, in the past. But it's an opportunity to change for the better, an opportunity to show the world how good construction really is, and how much expertise and skills that we've got in the industry. And I think we take ourselves for granted, particularly on site, and the complex nature of construction and the problems that are solved on site, and the complexities of programming and interfaces of design and building bespoke things is something that the industry is really, really good at, and sometimes I think it lays itself down with the level of disputes in construction, and it's fighting against itself. And I think it's a great opportunity for it to change now. So anyway, I hope that ramble has been helpful. This is Stuart Davidson. I think it's stopped raining now. I walked through the rain, I think. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye for now. Keep safe. Have a lovely day.